Hi folks, Jason here. Going to be taking a quick dive into Substance Painter today. Basically, we're going to be going through Maya, how to create a low poly model. In this case, it's like a wooden fence, and stylized. But the emphasis is on low poly, so no massive detail. Then we're going to be importing it into Substance Painter, and we're going to be applying some textures, and then eventually in Unreal Engine, and we're going to be putting some foliage around the edges, and that will be it. So without further ado, let's get going. So as you can see here, we've got our little model, but again, it's very basic, very like low poly, and really just the emphasis is on making the textures do the work, so to speak. So that's it in essence. So without further ado, let's get going. So I'm going to go through to Maya, and you can see there we've got the original image. Now I went online and was just having a look at some inspirational images here from an artist on Pinterest, and looking at how they constructed the models. And then you can see there, this is one that I've just created. So really all we've got is cylinders. We've got the cube there, and also a cube there as well. And that's pretty much it. So part of this is also going to be going through looking at, once you've modeled, how to use a 3D cut and sew. We've had some requests for that as well. So we're going to dip into that and basically look at how you lay out in the UV editor. So if I just open this up now, you'll see there we've got all the UVs all laid out, all very, very nice. And if I just pop back over to Substance Painter and just go into the different views, you can see there when it pops it in, we've got all the UVs there all painted, as you can see. So all pretty cool. So let's just close this down. So I'm going to keep this open, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift these to the side. Oops, let's try that again. And we're going to create our model. So I'm going to start off by creating the posts for this. So basically what I did here was, and depending on how long this takes, I might even speed up the video, but we'll see. We'll see how we get on. So first of all, I'm going to create some cylinders, and I'm just going to assign a new material to that. And before we go any further, we don't really need this many subdivisions. So I'm going to go through to the channel box, go to the cylinder itself. We'll probably make it something like, I don't know, 10. Let's have a look at that. Something like that. Could even be less. Let's have a look. Maybe you make it something like 6. There we go. Really, really basic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of enlarge that. And again, I will try and get it approximately the same as the other model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through to face, and I'm going to delete these faces. Do the same on the underside. Just make sure you haven't got any other sides selected. I'm going to right click, go to edge, double click, and then go through to mesh and fill the hole, and then just do the same on the other side. Now I don't want to have this as a flat plane, so I'm just going to create a little subdivision here as well. Just click on one end click on the other, hit enter, and there we are. Okay, and then whilst we've got the multi-cut tool, also I'm just going to add some subdivisions. So something like, not a lot, just maybe just 1 or 2, like so. And then staying on the edge tool, I'm going to use the scaling tool just to give this a bit of shape. So maybe make it thinner at the bottom. Oh, let's try that again. Maybe we'll use the face. Just select the faces, like so. And then we'll just scale that down. Go back to edge, double click. And again, the more kind of irregular, the better, yeah, because it's supposed to be sort of weather-worn wood. Yeah. So you can see here also, I'll put a bit of a twist in there. So I'm going to go back to that, go back to the edge tool. And again, I'll probably have to do the face on that. And I'll just do a bit of a twist like so. Go back to the edge. Add a bit of a twist there. Not a lot, just enough to give it a bit of character. Again, I'll go back to face. Okay, there we are. And just for the sake of expediency, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this now. Just hit Shift and D, move that along, and then what I can do is I can just to make it a little bit different, I'll probably just rotate, and also I'll probably just scale it down a little bit as well, maybe a bit thinner, and just make it just so it's not entirely the same. Probably just raise that just a little bit. Again, if you want to kind of like get an idea of the levels, you can always go press on the space bar and say have a look at, say, front view. You can have them both sort of sitting on the same line just so you know where you are. But again, it's not massively important at this stage. Okay, then next we've got the planks. So again, I'm just going to use the cube for this. Again, I'm just going to assign another material. It keeps copying the same material from the thing you can see on the back there. So again, I'm going to Lambert. So this is going to be the plank. So I'm just going to get it to approximately the shape, something like that. Okay, that's looking all right. And then just to give a bit of character, I'm going to go back to the multi-cut tool and just drop some subdivisions in there. And there's where you can have a bit of fun and, for example, go into the face tool and just do things like turn up a bit on the end there. Maybe go to the edge tool, double click, and maybe just bend it. Not too much, but just enough to kind of give it that worn, weathered sort of feel. And then on the end, I'll go back to face. You do something like that. Go back to the object. Right, so what you can do here is you can copy this again to save on time. You can copy it and then just play around with it. So Shift and D, move that down, Shift and D, right down there. And again, we can do things like scale, maybe just stretch that out a little bit. Maybe rotate this a little bit. And also you can play around with things like the edge tool. So can maybe bring that out instead of in, and then that in instead of out, so you kind of get this nice weathered kind of feel. And then do the same with the underneath as well. We can maybe bring this edge up like so. Go to the edge there, double click, maybe something like that. But again, you know, it's your call. Just have a bit of a play. Okay, so looking good. And also you don't want them to be floating as well, so just make sure that with each one of the models, you can have them just sort of slightly sinking into the pillars, into the posts, something like that. Okay, so it's not looking too bad. Now what I've done here, and you didn't see that in the intro, is I've got some planes in there as well, and I'm going to be putting those as a last touch when we get this into Unreal. But essentially these are going to have foliage, so I'll just need to create an alpha channel in Photoshop and just drop some foliage on there, save it out as a target, and then put it on there in Unreal Engine. So don't worry about that for the time being, but you can still construct it in the meantime, and that's really simple. So all you need to do there, so before we do that, just create a base. I'll just bring that forward, and again I'll just change the material on that. Okay, and just expand that out. Perhaps just a little bit big. I can just take that down a little bit. Okay, if you do want to play around with some of these edges, you can see here I've put some subdivisions on this as well, just to give it a bit of character. So what you can do is, I might just increase that a little bit, just making sure that it intersects with it, and then using the multi-cut tool, put some subdivisions in there. And again, you don't have to be massively precise with this. And then what you can do is on the vertex, I'm going to go to there, use the soft selection. So just hit B, just get that, something like that, and then you can start kind of playing around with this. And again, there's no real rule as such. What you want is you just want it to kind of look a little bit uneven and not just like a flat plane. And just be wary about where you're making your moves. And again, on the edge here, for example, like I've got it in the other one, what you could do is I'll just take it off, press B and just take it off soft selection. I could take that and just maybe expand it out a little bit. Like that. I think that'll do. Okay, so that's it for this video, folks. In the next video, we're going to be looking at unwrapping these with the 3D cut and sew. So we're preparing it for putting it into Substance Painter. So thanks for watching, folks, and I shall see you in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye for now. Okay, so welcome back, folks. We are now going to be dipping into doing the 3D cut and sew. So without further ado, let's get going. So in order to do this, what you'll need to do is, if I go right click and object mode, we're going to basically select each part of this model and we're going to unwrap it. Now how we do that first is we're just going to, I'll just rotate that a little bit. I can just see it's a little bit off. There we go. What we're going to do, I'm just going to expand this out a little bit. There we go, get a bigger view. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through to UV, and then what we're going to do is we're going to basically take a shot of it camera based. So you're going to click on that and you'll see there it selects all the faces. Now if we go through to the UV and UV editor, you can see there we've got a view of it now, sort of at an angle. It basically just allows us to kind of like select all of this. Now that's part one. Part two is to get these two side by side is then we go back to UV and we go to where it says 3D cut and sew tool, like so. Right click, go to component and then go to edge. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can either double click until you see this little white line, and basically this is where it's going to cut, or alternately what you can do is click and hold with the left button mouse and then just move it along that edge. You have to be quite steady with it. Basically it'll do it. It allows you a little bit more control, but you have to have a bit of a steady hand. So that's one way of doing it. The next stage, once you've done that, is you want to go right click, go to UV shell, and then with that selected, hit D. Give it a sec. There we go. So it's unwrapped it. Now we'll need to kind of have a bit of a play around with that, but for the meantime, that's all looking all right. I mean, if you wanted to, you could take that and sort of stretch it out, but we're not going to worry for the time being. What we're going to do now is we're going to go around, go back to the cut and sew tool there, and basically do the same thing. So I'm going to double click, and then just do that edge. There we go. So once you've got that, go right click, UV shell, click, hit D. It'll unwrap that bit as well. And then that just leaves the inner part. Now, what I probably would suggest is, again, we can join all this back up when we go into the little editor here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through to the right click, edge, double click on the end there. There we go. So we've got that, Just going to do this in pieces and then stitch them back together again. So I'm going to go to UV shell, select it, D. There we go. Don't worry, it all looks a little bit off at the moment, but we'll take care of that. I'm going to go right click, edge. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't respond, so you just have to kind of give it another double click. There we go. Go to UV shell, click on that, hit D. Okay, there we go. And then it's just the end pieces now, like so. And then just do this edge as well. Hit D. Now, in order to kind of make some sense of this, I'm going to go to right click. I'm just going to go to the select now. Highlight the entire thing. Hold down Shift, right click. And then what we're going to do is just going to go layout for the time being. Layout UV. So it's just all the pieces are there. And then we can start the process then of going through each one and just straighten them out. So I can select this, right click, and then probably what I'm going to do here is I'll probably, again, just have a bit of a play around with this, but it might mean you just need to, where are we? say unfold along V. There we are. So we've got that there, and then what you can do is you can just reduce that down like so, and just move that to the side. I just stretch that a little bit, just so it looks approximately like the model. And you can do the same thing with the other side as well. So Shift, right click, unfold along V, and then do the same thing again, just reduce that down like so, move that to the side, so you get the general idea. There we go. Let's go back, unfold along V. There we are. So now we've got those sorted approximately. What we're going to do now is I'm just going to move these around a little bit, and now what we're going to do is we're going through the process of stitching them together. So if I right click now and go to edge, you'll see there we've got some corresponding red lines. So if you've not done this before, basically this you'll see on the right here, sorry, on the left, you'll see it corresponding when I select the edges. Yeah, so it's basically just showing you where the seams are. So these are the parts that we need to connect up. Yeah. So with that in mind, I'm going to go to right click, I'm going to go UV shell. So this will need rotating. Again, I might just move these just to one side. Now with edge selected, now you can see if I select that now, go right click, then you go to move and sew edges. Do the same with that. Do the same with that. Now you can do this in a number of ways. I mean, I've done it that way, but again, you want to be making sure that you don't get into a mess. So again, this might be like a bit of trial and error. So that looks a little bit better. And again, we can play around with this and get it into some shape. Ideally, what we need to do is we'll probably end up straightening these. So you can see there again, if I'm going to go to UV shell, move this to one side. And I'm just going to go to edge again. Let's have a look. Let's move that to one side. Okay, let's have a look at stitching these together now. Nope. Let's try that again. Again, it didn't work out too well that time, so I'm just going to undo that and let's try that again. If you do get yourself into a bit of a muddle, all you need to do is go to UV, click on that, and you can just basically do it by hand. It's not really a big deal. So basically, think about it like a cardboard box. That's all we're doing here, was basically just unfolding it. So again, I'm going to rotate that around. So UV. Like so. Right. Maybe start from the bottom, see how that works out. Again, that's kind of looking all right. Now what I might do at this stage is I'm going to attach these other bits on the end, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the entire thing, and I'm going to go right click, hold down shift, right click, and I'm going to have a look and see what happens when I go straighten shell. Just give it a sec. All right, it's looking all right. It's not exactly the result that I wanted. Let's have a look at doing the UV shell, doing it that way. Straighten UVs. So look at that. That's a bit more like it. Okay, so it just means it's a bit more orderly. I can see there's a little bit of a rogue bit going on there, so I'm just going to bring that up to there like so. Now again, it'll need a bit of playing around with. So for example, on these edges, just go into the face there, see where that corresponds. So you can see there, let's have a quick look on the edge. Right, okay, so you can see there the sides need to be obviously wider. So if I have a look on there and say, okay, so they're obviously sort of wider, but the edges are thinner. Yeah, so again, need a bit of a play around with that. But in essence, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put this in place for now. I'm just going to rotate that. Okay. Now let's just have a quick look and see where that corresponds. So what I'm probably going to do here is I'm going to go to UV, and I'm just going to use the marquee just to highlight those UVs and just simply move it along a little bit like so. Like I say, you can kind of play around with this, you know, take your own time with it. There's no rush. And again, any point in this video where you feel like it's going a little bit too fast, just pause it and then pick up from where you left off. So I'm going to move those together like so. And then with this, again, now I might, see, let's just try this. I might get away with actually not moving this, see if this works. There we are. So I don't even need to move it. Right, so yeah, as I mentioned before, with the things like the edges, if I go face, obviously that's going to be wider than that, and you can see there at the moment they're kind of pretty much the same. So what you can do there again is I'm just going to move this out a little bit, widen this out a little bit. You know, I'm just getting it approximately, you know, the same as that. And then I'm assuming with this, if I go, sorry, if I go to face, yeah, so that's the other side. So what I'm going to do there is go back to the UVs and just broaden that out a little bit, approximately to the same size as that. Might just widen that out a little bit as well. So yeah, best way to think about it is like a cardboard box. Now, another thing that you'll need to check, and you have to do this with all of the pieces, is going on the checkerboard. So the checkerboard is basically a safeguard just to make sure that the UVs are looking good and that you haven't got any stretching going on, and that all the checkers are approximately the same size. If you see any bits where they're looking thin, it means that you need to adjust the model in order to kind of get that. So basically that's the general idea with that. But that's not looking too bad. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to now do the 3D cut and sew with all of these models. I'm probably going to speed this part of the video up because essentially you should be able to get that in what I've done, and then we're going to have a look at grouping them all together so it's ready to export. So I'm going to speed the video up here now, folks, and I'll see you shortly. So this is the finished UVing. As you can see there, I've grouped all of the unfolded UV maps together, and all you need to do, if you've got everything everywhere, is to basically create UV shells, highlight them all, shift right click, and then basically you want to go to layout and layout UV, and then it'll drop it all into place. So that's it for video number 2. In the next video, we're going to be looking at exporting this into Substance Painter. So thanks for watching, folks, and we'll catch you in the next video. Okay, bye for now. Okay, so welcome back, folks. So at the end of that process, you should have all of your unfolded geometry all grouped together in the UV editor. Take a bit of time just to arrange these. Now you can do the select, right click, and layout and layout UV, but it'll kind of do it in a sort of fairly arbitrary way. And one of the important things to do is to get all of the shells to show up. If I just select the checker now, essentially what you want is you want them to be as near to the same scale as is possible, and also to avoid as much stretching as you can. You don't really want any stretching going on. There might be a little bit here and there. I can see there a little bit on the corner, and by all means you can have a bit of a play around with that. I could have a look at that, say look on the face of that, and where are we? So you can see that there if I just take that off. So you can certainly have a bit of an exploration on that. I'm not going to get into it too much, but suffice to say, you can have a bit of a play around, see if you can make any differences like that, for example. Just having a tweak. But anyway, and there might be some other little bits and bobs, like here, for example. I can see could probably do with adjusting that, but just for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to scooch over that. But you take your time. Now, once you have all that in place and you've arranged your shells accordingly, we're ready for the next stage, which is to export the model. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to object mode. I'm just going to go shift and select and select and select, and just select all of these models like so. And then I'm going to go through to File, Export Selection. I'm going to export it as an FBX, put it on the desktop, and we'll call it, say, Fence. Where are we? Fence 3. Okay, and export that selection. So that's that bit done. Next, in Substance Painter, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new project. Once you go through to New Project from File, basically this is all fairly standard generic stuff. Now, the first thing you need to do is you need to go and select your file. Let's go and select that. And should be able to find it somewhere. Fence 3, there we are. Click Open. Now you can leave the document resolution at 1024, but the standard one is 2048, so I'm just going to bump it up to that. And that's pretty much it. Just click OK. And it'll tell me about the other project. I'm not going to worry too much about saving what I've done there. And hey presto, we have our model. And also we have our UV map. Now, before we go forward, we're going to need to bake this. So you'll need to go through to Texture Settings. We'll just scroll down to where it says Bake Mesh Maps. Just going to click on that. And then basically, once you've got that up, is fairly standard size. Now it's set there at 512. Again, we'll make that at 2048. That all looks all right, and then we'll go to bake mesh maps. Just give it a second to work out what it's doing. And voila, it's done. Now you can see here we've got the we've got some little marks on here. This is basically where the other objects are interacting with the other objects, so I wouldn't worry too much about those. This is what's basically hidden. So if you're thinking, oh, what are these marks? It's just where you can see there is where the objects are. We've got the posts and we've got the rock, so that's all that's kind of going on there. So don't worry too much about that. So once you've kind of got that in place, we're really ready to start painting. So I'm going to leave the video there, folks. Take your time with it. Any problems, just rewind the video and follow the steps again, and I shall see you in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching, folks. Bye for now. Okay, so welcome back, folks. So now that we have our baked texture, we're ready to start painting. Now, if you're not seeing this view, by the way, you need to go to the top here where it says 2D to 3D, right next to this cube, and you can choose different views. So, for example, if you wanted to do work solely on the model itself, you could do that. Or if you wanted to do 2D only, you can do that. So you can work into the UVs that way and do all your painting. Well, preferably you need both. So 3D and 2D, like so. And of course you can change the size of the screen, you know, depending on what you're doing. So you've got a bit of control there. So I'm going to start off by doing the basics, and that's by putting a wood texture on there. Now, if it helps, you could go for an orthographic view. An orthographic view will allow for a more what's the word? It'll allow you to kind of see it full on. Whereas in perspective, it can get a little bit off, but again, it's at this stage, it's not entirely that important. So I'm probably going to leave mine at in perspective view. So we're going to go and select a material. So I'm going to use wood for this. So on the left-hand side here, and depending on where you've got it, because you might have this shelf up on the right here, and you can drag these things around. So if I grab hold of that, say for example, you can move these things around. I just like this at the bottom, yeah. So, or even at the side. So, you know, by all means, choose what works for you. Scroll down to materials. I'm going to type in wood. I'm going to select this wood material here. Now it does have a bunch of settings here which you can sort of play around with, you know, to sort of play around with the flow and things like that. We can get more into that in later videos. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to project this on because I want the grain to go a certain way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this tool here, which is projection. You can see there's nothing in there at the moment until I double click the material. And you can see there now we've got the grain. And you can play around with some of these functions here, but essentially what we're going to do is once you've got it in position and you're happy with the grain. And again, if you want to hold down S, you can change the size of the grain as well. So S and right click for changing the size, and S and left click to rotate. And finally, S and middle mouse to move it around. Now I want, because it's quite stylized, I want the sort of grain to be fairly, I want it to be fairly big. And also with the size of the brush, Control and right button mouse, like so. And then basically just start painting away. Now it's going to pick up on the other posts as well, but we'll come to that shortly. So I'm just going to paint away there. Don't worry if you catch other parts of the model. We'll take care of that. Okay, let's go and see what that looks like. I'm just going to click off that tool now. And let's go in and have a look. So that looks pretty cool. Now, one of the things, if you want to be a little bit more accurate, is you can, instead of working on the 3D model, you can work on the actual map. And this can be a very good way of just ensuring that you get full coverage and all the bases are covered. And also, because of the grain with the model, so for example, it might be that you've got the grain going that way, but you want the grain to also go down as well, and not just across. It'll be very useful for that. So basically, you can do the same with this. So you can see there, those are the parts, these are the posts, and these are our planks here. So instead of projecting across there, what you can do is I'm going to go and select the projection again. Now you can see it's doing it that way, but if I hold down S and left button mouse and rotate that, you'll see now what we can do is we can be very, very precise and actually paint through the model that way. It's going to reduce the size of that brush just a little bit. Do the same on this. You can see there on the left hand side is also painting in. I'm just going to do the same on this side as well. Okay, I'm going to click off the tool. Now if we go and have a look, I'm just going to bring this over there. You can see now there's a lot more coverage, particularly on the sides there. And we're going to work into this anyway, but it's covered a lot more. I can still see a few little bits and bobs. So in the back there, so you can see where I've missed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn back on that projection on here, and you'll see there when I start to paint into that, it's taking care of the rest of it. Just click off the tool. There we are. So you can also, do things like touch-ups, which is perfectly fine. But for the most part, I think that looks looking pretty cool. Now basically, we're going to work our way along now with the rest of it. So staying with the UV maps, I'm going to use the projection tool again. And so we've got this going down like before. So now, just like before, I'm going to paint the posts. So it takes out a lot of the guesswork, and also it just makes life a little bit easier. And again, as I said before, don't worry about these little spots. That's just where it's baked. And then just do the same on here as well. Voila. Let's go and have a look at our handiwork. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. That's pretty good. Obviously, it's far from over. We've got to put some nice little effects in there, but that's it. Okay. Right, and then we're going to take care of the ground. So I'm just going to go through to here. So this is what we're doing here is we're just staying away from putting any detail in, and we're just going to take care of the little things. So what about the ground? I'm probably going to use something like a sort of concrete texture, something like that. So it could be something like that perhaps. And again, we're going to work into this. Change the size of that brush. I've got this on the standard brush as well, by the way, folks. So if you want to be changing the brushes, we will come to that in the next video, where we'll look at a multitude of different brushes that we can use to get different effects. So see there, it's just clipping the see what's going on there. See there, for some reason it's just catching the let's just get it filled in and then we'll come back to it. Not quite sure why it's catching all the rest of the model there. Let's have a look. That looks all right. It's a bit of a mystery. I'm not entirely sure why it was catching that, but just do this bottom part here. I'm just going to reduce the size of the brush. Right. And, just go back to the brush. Let's see if we can just touch this up. All right. Okay. I mean, you can take your time and just kind of have a bit of a play around. It does appear that there's a bit of sort of bleed through happening here, but it's not a big deal. We're going to be putting some textures on here anyway, so some different brushes. So for the most part, that's looking all right. The only thing that's kind of left is the rock, and again, you could sort of choose something, you know, one of these kind of textures or something like that, perhaps. Let's have a look. Give that a bit of a paint, or maybe we'll go through to here and paint it on there instead. Like so. And then maybe go back to the texture there and go through that. But for the most part, that's kind of looking all right. It's obviously it's far from finished, and you can go around sort of tweaking various other little parts of it there. I can see, if I just go wood now, I can see there's still some little bits I can see that just need sort of tweaking, but for the most part, that's looking okay. So that's pretty much it, folks. In the next video, we're going to be taking a look at putting some effects on here, you know, cracking it up a little bit and making it look a little bit more worn. We're also going to be putting some screws in there or some nails in there, and also we're going to be putting some effects on the floor as well. So that's it for now. Any parts of this where you're getting a little bit stuck, just be sure to stop the video, rewind it, follow the steps again, and I'm sure you'll be fine. Obviously, if you've got any questions, by all means, get in touch. In the meantime, folks, thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now. Hi folks, and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be looking at adding some more detail to our textures. So without further ado, let's get going. So first of all, I'm going to start off by creating another layer in the layers section. This is what we're going to be painting onto. And I want to basically start putting some cracks into the wood just to make it look a little bit more interesting. So I'm just going to select one of these textures, probably something like this here, the artificial leather, something like that, but preferably something dark. It could even be something like that. What's this one here? Silicone coat. Something like that. And then for the brushes, I'm going to select like a crack. So if I go type that in there, yeah, something like what we've got here, crazy cracks, something like that. Let's try that out. So I'm going to just expand on that a little bit. Now I'm going to move this just to one side, just so I can get a bit more of a view. I'm going to hold down the control key and the right button mouse just to reduce the size of that brush there. And not quite getting the desired effect that I want, because what I want is a bit of an indent. So it might be to do with the material. So I'm just going to go back to materials. Let's try artificial leather. Double click on that. Let's try that out. That's more like it. So it's got a bit of a bump on it, so I can actually see what's going on there. And again, if you want to sort of take the intensity down, you can play around with some of the settings here. So things like stroke opacity. Let's take that down a little bit. See there, it kind of lessens it. So again, use your own judgment on this. In terms of color as well, if you're finding that you don't want so much color, and you want but you want a bit more density, you can do that as well. So just have a bit of a play around with that. And I'm just probably going to speed this part of the video up just so we can kind of get start getting these cracks in. Okay, so we've got that in place, and again, you can keep going with this. You can put some more in around the sides. You know, don't do too much. You don't want too much noise in there, but at the same time, you want to kind of give it some, some detail, some interest. If you find you put a bit too much in there, you can always use the eraser tool. And what I'll do is I'll choose a similar brush to before. So I'll go cracks and use that one there. And then I'll use that to start taking away the cracks. Or perhaps use this other one here. Let's try that one. So again, you can go back and forth with this. And use your own judgment. So now that we've got the cracks in place, I wanted to use a hatch brush to basically put on the ends of the post, just to make them just look a bit more weathered. So in the brushes section, I'm going to keep the same material. Make sure that you've got paint selected, and I'm going to type in hatch, and I'm going to choose this one here. And I'm going to go to the end of the post, just enlarge that a little bit, and basically just start hatching that in there. You might just reduce the size of that brush, and see if you can maintain doing it from the top as well, because you get this very nice sort of etching in on the edges there, which is quite a nice, where it basically bleeds off. So again, that's quite nice. And again, I'm just going to run around these posts and just, go around the edge there, go around the top there as well. Okay, it's looking good. And then at the end of the posts, I'm just going to reduce the size of the brush there, and then basically do the same thing again. You can see there you end up with this nice effect on the edge as well. So it kind of creates that weathered look. Pop over to the other side. Just do the same thing again. Something like that. So that's all shaping up nicely. Now, with regards to the rest of it, now you can continue adding some little bits to here. Now there are some pretty cool things. If we go to the tool section here, there are some other elements that you can put in here. So I might just create another layer like so. And again, you can name these layers. So I could call this, like, say, cracks for that. That could be, again, sort of a main textures, just so we know where we are. And these are just like additional effects. And we've got things like screw bolts, so that's quite cool. So what I'm going to do here is I might just take the opacity down a little bit. And basically what you do is you can just basically stamp these things on. So say put something there, maybe something there, something there, then the other side, same thing again. So I'm just using the same material that I was using on the others. But again, it's quite sort of simple, you know, but effective. And depending on what you're doing for your, you know, for your games art, you know, again, the level of detail you go into on this is entirely up to you. Aside from that, it does have some other things. And again, I might just, what I might do, I might just call that, tell you what I'll do, slight change of plan. I'll call that bolts. I'm going to create another layer, and I'll call this additional effects. Oops, spelling. Let's try that again. Yeah, things like you got bullet impact. If I just take, say, the opacity down on that, you can do things like this. I mean, again, you know, I'm just adapting it for another purpose, but you can just do things like that on there. And even if you take the opacity all the way down, you know, you're still left with things like this, you know, little indents. So, you know, it's have a play around, use some of these things to your advantage. What were the other things I was going to look at? We've got some scratches here. I'm not sure how well they show up. Oh yeah, we can see there we've got bits of scratches. But again, have a play around. We've got some cracks there as well. So again, you know, don't go too far on this, but at the same time, you know, have a play. Now that's it pretty much with the fence, and then we've got the floor section, and it does have these things here called pebbles. So if I just enlarge that again, this is pretty cool. So I can just enlarge that a little bit. And again, I might just take the opacity down just a little bit. And basically you can start plopping in these pebbles on the ground. And again, just do it sparingly, don't go too OTT. But yeah, something like that. And you could even paint, we've got this like rock down here as well. Could even just put some on there. Just to tie that in to the rest of it. So that's pretty much it for this, folks. In the next video, we're going to look at just any additional effects that we can put in here, and then we are going to export it into Unreal Engine, and we're going to drop in our foliage images, and that will be the end of the videos. So thanks for watching, folks. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Hi folks, welcome to the final video in this little series. This is just a last little opportunity to make any adjustments to your painted model before we take it into Unreal Engine. So that might take the form of perhaps looking at applying some other additional effects in here. So for example, it could be things like, you know, cracks in the flooring. That could be quite interesting, just to give it a bit of texture, like so. This part's entirely up to you. You may not want to sort of do anything else, but this is just really put in a little bit more sort of finesse on there. And again, you can sort of put some on the sides there as well if you want. This isn't entirely necessary, but let's see how we go. So something like that. And also things like we've got these kind of sorry, go back to materials. You could indeed use some of these things to brush over your model. Could use like a soft brush on it. So maybe a basic soft brush. I might just create an additional layer for this. And you might just want to go around the edges. So I might just take the opacity down that a little bit. And just things like, you know, create like almost like a vignette. You know, just darken around the edges. Just give it that kind of, again, that kind of character. You know, it's a bit more worn, but also it kind of creates like a focus. If this base was like the canvas, so to speak, you know, this could act as a little kind of platform for the model. So again, just something like that. You know, just breaks the model up in terms of, you know, it doesn't look as clean. And then you could even apply it to the fence as well. So, you know, you could just add bits on the end there, you know, just darken parts of it. Again, if you want, you don't necessarily have to do this, but, you know, thinking about things like how things get dirty, you know, things that are left out in nature, how they can kind of get a bit worn and a bit kind of dirty. So I'm putting it around, say, like around the points of contact there, you know, where grime occurs, you know, dirt and things like that. But again, entirely up to you. Might just put some at the base there as well. But that's pretty much looking like it's there, folks. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to now go through the process of exporting the model, and then we're going to be putting it into Unreal Engine. So when you're ready to export your textures out, the only thing we'll need to do now is obviously just give it a check over, make sure everything is as it should be. Go through to File. We're going to go through to Export Textures. And we're just going to be presented with a few things here. So we want the output directory in this instance to be on the desktop. You can save it to wherever you want. I'm going to put mine on the desktop. I'm going to call this substance _ fence. Select that folder, and the rest of it should be fairly straightforward in terms of the what we're going to be exporting. So we've got roughness, metallic, normal, height, emissive. One of the things that we do need to do is we need to look at the presets. For this, we're going to be using Unreal Engine 4 packed. And then we've got there our base color, roughness, metallic, normal, height, and emissive. That's all looking good. Save that. We'll just go through to the desktop and we'll just double check. Substance fence, and there we are. There are our files. If I just double click on that now, as you can see there, it's opened it up in Photoshop, and we've got our diffuse. That all looks as it should. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the video on pause a second. I'm going to open up Unreal Engine, and we're going to put our model in there and attach the material. So that's it for now, folks. I shall see you in a second. Okay, so welcome back, folks, and we are now in Unreal Engine, and I've just taken the liberty of just importing our final textured model into Unreal, and you can see there it's turned out really well. All the textures look as they should. All those alpha brushes, the textures, it's got all the right look about it. And you'll see here I've taken the liberty of putting some vegetation around that. I'll go over that just very briefly towards the end of this video. But anyway, so looking pretty good, and it's surprising, you know, the results you can get from just using very low poly models, but then making up for it with the textures. And you know, I'm sure you'll agree, you know, the results, you know, sort of speak for themselves. So next we're going to take a look at how to get your model into here. So before doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create another folder in here just so I don't get mixed up. I'm going to call this new_fence, just so we know where we are. Basically, we're going to be importing the model, which you can see there, and all of the texture files which we've got in the folder, and also we're going to be creating a material in order to put the model, the textures onto, like thus. Okay, so before we get going, you need to go back into Maya. With your model, make sure that it's probably the state that you've got it in at the moment is you've probably got it looking something like this, where all the models are separate. You have to hold down Shift and select, and just select all those parts of the model. Once you've done that, go to Mesh, go Combine, and then export it and just give it a name. Put it all into the same folder. That will be great. Now, when it comes to importing, and if I go into my new fence, this is where I'm going to go import. I'm going to bring the files in. So you can see there I've got the fence there. I think that's the last one, last save that I did. Hopefully it is. And I'm just going to import that separately anyway. So import all. I think that's the right one. Let's just double check. Yeah. So before we do anything, I'm just going to drag that into the scene and just going to go scale and just enlarge that up like so. Something like that. It's approximately the same size. Next, we're going to go import and we're going to bring in base color. We're going to leave the height. We'll go with metallic. We'll go with normal, roughness. Yep. Click open. Okay, they're all in there. But next, what we're going to do is we're going to go right click. Going to go to material. We'll give it a name. We'll call it fence material. Double click on that, and then basically we're just going to click and hold and drag our files in, and they all go in their respective slots. So you'll have the base color that goes into the base color. We've got metallic. We're going to drag that in there, connect the RGB up to metallic. Again, we'll just move that to the side. I'm doing this quite quickly. You can take your time. The normal, I'm going to drag that in there. Just move that over to the side there a little bit. Drag that in there. And then we've got roughness. Just going to drag that in there and connect that up with that. All we need to do next is go apply, and fingers crossed that will all look fine and dandy. Just give it a sec. There we go. So that's looking really nice. That's exactly what I was looking for. Just going to save that out. Now the cool thing is with this, even though we've combined it, we can still apply the textures separately. So now I've got the fence material there. If I click and hold and drag, say, onto the base, it'll just do the base. Same thing with the rock. Same thing with the fence posts. Same thing with the wooden slats, and everything is pretty much in there like before. So pretty cool, huh? The last thing I just wanted to end on is the vegetation. So with the vegetation, you can see there I've got the plains. Now if I just go back to Maya now, you can see there I've got them on the plains. So you'll need to export the plane. So basically, in order to kind of get your vegetation sorted, first thing you'll need to do is need to create an image using the alpha channels. So this is one that I prepared earlier, but basically it's a free image that I found online. If I just go into the internet there, so you can see there, all you'll need to do is right click. In fact, I'll do a little demo for you now. I'm going to go copy, because it's pretty simple to do. I'll just get rid of that, and I'll get rid of the other one that I made previously, just so we can start with a clean slate. And tell you what, let's just get rid of the other two as well. Let's get rid of those. There we are. I'm just going to turn that off. Turn that off. It'll let me. Perhaps I need to create another layer. There we go. So Control and V, and you can scale this up and play around with it. Of course, you create your own artwork by all means. I'm just doing this for the sake of the tutorial. Need to get rid of this background. So what I'm going to do is you can use the Magic Wand tool, and I'm just going to go around very, very quickly. You can take your time and just sort of select this and delete it. Just making sure that you've not missed anything. But I think that looks pretty much all right. And then there's all the rest of it as well, all these other elements. I'm just going to delete. So I just want a completely clear background, nothing else. Okay, we've just got some additional stuff here, but I think that might be. We'll leave that as is. So press Control and D. Right, and then as long as you're happy with the position of it, I might just make it a little bit more central. Once you've got that, next what we need to do is we need to basically create a black background and then make all of this white. Where it's black, it's going to be transparent, and where it's white is where it's going to show the image. And this is what the masking is about, and the alpha channel. So with that layer selected, we're going to go through to the background here, click on that so it selects everything. Now we do have some bits in the middle. So if I just zoom in a little bit, if I hold down Shift, I can also take care of these as well. So any of the little bits that are not getting the magic wand, we can just go through and get all those little parts that we can't see. There we go. I think that's pretty much it. Yep. Okay. It's going to zoom out. Next, create a new layer. Then what we're going to do, with that layer selected, and obviously with the magic wand going around the selection there, I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool. I'm going to select black and then click on that like so. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go select and inverse. So it's going to flip that. Actually, I can just see the little bit that I've missed. That's a little bit annoying. Let's just try. Let's just go back again, just a second. Let's go Shift and D. I can just see a little bit at the top there that I missed. It's not massively important, but I just want to take care of that. There we go. Right. Let's do that again. I'm going to select that. Select all of that. And again, I'm just going to go Shift and just very, very quickly just select all those little parts that we didn't get before. So I think that's looking all right. Once you've got that, again, just go back to the where we were before. Click on that. Okay, that looks pretty cool. I'm going to go through to select and inverse. This time I'm going to switch this over to white, and then with the paint bucket tool still selected, click, and voila. So that's what we want to look at. Next, we're going to go Control and C. Then we're going to go over to where it says channels. Click on that. We're going to create a new channel, an alpha channel, and then Control and V and paste that in there like so. Control and D to deselect. And next we just want to turn the rest of these channels back on. Go back to layers. We no longer need this, so I'm going to drag that into the waste bin. And one thing we just need to check before we go any further, I've just seen that if I just go back to the channels, that the alpha channel is actually turned off. So please double check before you export this. Make sure that they're all on. That's on, obviously. And then you're ready to export. So I'm going to go Save As. Go through to here. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to go through to, let's go back through to the fence. Substance fence there. I'm going to create another folder just so we don't get confused. I'm going to call this Weed 5. Double click and go to target, and we'll call this Weed 5. Click Save. Now, when it's saving out, make sure it's at 32 bits, not at 24, or else it won't work. So that's all good. That's all saved out. Now we just need to go to Maya, and with our geometry. So you basically you'll need your plane with essentially that kind of setup. So you just need like a couple of subdivisions in there, and you need to export this. So we're going to go to File, Export Selection, and again we'll just come back to the original folder and go to Weed 5, and we'll call this Weed 5A. Click Export. So that's all good, and then we just need to go to Unreal Engine. So let's just go and have a look. And in here, I think what I'll do is, just so we don't have any confusion, I'll just create another folder, and I'll call this Weed 5. There we go. Double click that, and then we can drop our files in here. Yeah, so I'm going to go to Import. We'll go and find that folder again. There we go. So we've got the target and we've got the mesh. So it doesn't matter which order you do it in. We'll click Open. We'll bring the texture in there, so that's all good. And then we'll go Import, and we'll bring in our mesh. Now, it's saying no skeletal mesh. I'll go with that for the time being. That's unchecked, but it should be fine because we shouldn't really need that. So I'll click Import. Get rid of that. Okay, so the next thing we'll to do will be to create the material like we did before with the fences. So I'm going to go Material. I'll call it Weed _ Material. Double click, and then we'll click and hold and drag our texture in there. Now this bit is quite important, so just tune into this. First of all, where it says RGB, we drag that into the base color. Now, we need to create an opacity mask, but you'll see there it's grayed out. So what we need to do is we need to select the weed material there, scroll down to where it says blend mode, click on that, and we'll go to masked. And now you'll see it appear. All we need to do next is need to go where it says A, click and hold, drag that into opacity mask. Next, click apply. Just give it a second. My computer's a little bit slow. Yours might be faster, but we might just have to wait a good few seconds. Okay, so it looks like it's done it. Now you'll see there it starts to disappear when you rotate it. Not an issue. All you need to do is scroll down to where it says two-sided, click on that, click apply. And hey presto, we have our texture all looking good. I'll just save that. Okay, click X. And all we need to do now is just need to place our mesh into the scene. Like so. We'll just increase the size of that. Now it looks invisible on that side. I can also see that for some reason the pivot's gone off. I'm not entirely sure why that's done that. If you do find that, all you need to do is hold down Alt, middle mouse, and just drag it into your into the model. I'm going to hit W and just rotate that around, just so we can see the face there. And then next, all we need to do is grab hold of our material and drag it onto the mesh, and voila, we have our transparent image. So again, I'm just going to drag that in there. Now I'm not quite sure why it's done that, but it's for some reason the pivot's gone off. It's not the end of the world, but it is rather annoying. But that said, that is pretty much it, folks. If you want to take a bit of time and go through this and say, for example, you could even hold down Alt and just copy that. You could even just expand that out a little bit, enlarge it like so. Again, I'll just use the middle mouse and just move that over to there. Let's have a look. And that is pretty much it, folks. So hopefully you found these videos useful, and hopefully it's given you some ideas. Primarily, what I'm hoping you get from these videos and the videos to come are that you don't necessarily need to make anything that's that's got masses of amounts of detail. You can take care of a lot of this just by using the textures. And you can see what what you can do in Substance Painter, and that's just scratching the surface. In the meantime, thanks for watching, folks. Hope you found this useful, and I will see you in the next video. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.